Welcome to the 6th episode of Rivanna Review, a program of stories, essays, and book reviews. My name is Robert Boucheron. I will be your host for a half hour of reading aloud with illustrations and author photographs. The print magazine, Rivanna Review, is published 4 times a year in Charlottesville, Virginia on the Rivanna River. I am the editor. The magazine is available in bookstores on the Main Street Mall in Charlottesville and bookstores in Winchester, Stanton, and Roanoke, Virginia. You can order a copy or a subscription from the website, rivannareview.com. Contributors to the magazine live all over the world, and they write about places far and wide. In this program, we will visit small-town New England, downtown Atlanta, rural Highland County, Virginia, the Silk Road in Kazakhstan, a high school in suburban New Jersey, and the shadow world of hoaxes, malls, and Bigfoot. The magazine has notices about book sales, literary events, and reading. Book reviews are of titles you may not have heard about, from small presses and by authors who are not yet bestsellers. To read the books mentioned here, please visit your local bookstore, online bookseller, or the public library. The magazine ends with news from Hapsburg, a picturesque town in the Shenandoah Valley. The next TV episode will bring it to you live. In the future, we hope to add interviews with authors, video clips, and who knows what. Passing Through, story by Lincoln Hearn. For a little while, when I was around 30, I lived in a small town in New England. I had moved up from the South, where drinking is fun, unless you're Baptist. Certainly among those who do drink, it isn't the business it is up north. Maybe that's because in the South, you can drink outside. You don't have to crowd together in a room, and you don't have to drink to ward off the cold. You sit on a patio or a screened porch, shaded by trees and serenaded by crickets, sip your drink and enjoy a warm season that's long and slow. In the New England town, it wasn't like that. Congregating in bars wasn't about killing time. It wasn't even about socializing. It was about keeping something alive, something that by all rights should have died a while back. The town had 3 bars to serve all manner of clientele, so all the town's drinkers were thrown together like crabs in a pot. One night I drank with a group of students who came to the bar from a guest lecture on climate change. They were despondent. "Did you know," one of them asked me after a round of beer, "that civilization as we know it won't be viable by the year 2050? I did not know that. The news didn't surprise me. Climate change has always been a dull ache at the back of my brain. There wasn't much else I could say, so I bought a pitcher of beer. That cheered them up. They were good people. 2 of them had just gotten engaged the week prior. I bought another pitcher to celebrate, and we carried on like that until closing. The townies in the bars were unhappy for a different reason, though I suppose it was the same reason. Climate change and the death of small towns, it's all coming from the same place, isn't it? One night I played darts with a group of construction workers. They were reliable for a few good games. I liked them. They thought about leaving town. Maybe some of them did. "There isn't much to build around here anymore," one said. "There used to be," another one said, "but all the construction jobs are now in apartments and office buildings. You know, those big new boxes that look like a stack of boxes." They didn't build buildings like that in this town. "The closest place where there's reliable construction work," the first one said, "is in Providence." "One of these days," the second one said, "we'll have to move to Providence or some other city," which was a shame because they had been born nearby or had lived in town for a while, and they had friends there. And some had kids, and a few even had spouses. But the time would come when they had no choice. "If we all move," the first one said, knowing it would never come to pass, "we can keep playing darts on Fridays." "Maybe you can move too," the second one said, elbowing me gently in the ribs. "Then we can all keep playing darts." "Maybe," I said, pleased to be invited to the fantasy. We raised our glasses and played a few more games. Unraveling, story by Edward Lineberry. At the back of the server room, Wayne held the door for Jody. "This is the 602 lab. The server room back in the day was too loud and too cold for anyone to work in. Here the guys could work in comfort, take conference calls and whatnot. The 8 desks inside showed little indication that anyone had ever used them for productive work. The outside wall was a bank of windows with an unobstructed view of the parking lot and grounds. None of the offices had such a view. Why did I never know this was here? Jody asked. You can't see in from outside, Wayne said. The glass is tinted. No one knows. A man and a woman entered the 602 lab behind them. Hey guys, Wayne said, do you know Jody? This is Stephanie and Larry. Stephanie and Larry were complete strangers to Jody. He tried to place their faces. Hastings employed over 75,000 people, 3,000 at this location alone, so it was possible they had never met. Still, the utter lack of familiarity was disconcerting. Jody was the only one wearing jeans. He felt underdressed. I heard you have the best coffee back here, Jody said. They both laughed, but the laughter was forced. Fantastic coffee, Stephanie said. Let's brew you up a cup. There was that word again, fantastic. Larry opened a featureless beige cabinet to reveal the coffee machine, a gold-plated hybrid of a space heater and an old-time radio. Knobs and dials protruded across the front, and there was a crank on the left side, a golden arm with a deep brown handle. There was no clear place to put your mug, no designated exit point for the liquid. White porcelain cups and saucers were stacked to one side. Jody thought the machine must have cost a fortune. Its presence in this room or even in this building was evidence of gross malfeasance. He said nothing. He didn't want to be that guy. On second thought, he wanted to take a picture to show his wife. How does it work? Jody asked. Is it espresso? We are way beyond espresso, Jody, Stephanie said. Turn the crank. Jody gripped the wooden knob, smooth to the touch. The crank made no sound and offered no resistance as he turned. That's enough. You can hear it working now. A burbling sound came from inside the machine. Gauges swung their needles from right to left. The plated sides flinched as though something inside was under pressure, and it vibrated. Stephanie placed a cup before the machine, gently positioning it with two hands and finishing the maneuver with a slight bow. She toggled a switch and a stream of coffee fell down like a waterfall from a tiny spout at the top of the machine, splashing into the cup. Not a drop was spilled. The cup contained a perfectly foamed cappuccino. Highland County, A Place Apart, essay by Richard G. Johnstone, Jr. Highland County in Western Virginia is the state's smallest in population and its highest in elevation. The annual Maple Festival draws tens of thousands of visitors over 2 March weekends. A true appreciation of its wonders comes through visits during the other seasons. Visitors from Washington, Baltimore, Richmond, and Norfolk were drawn to Highland County in autumn by the cascade of colors covering its mountainsides. As in New England, oaks, beeches, maples, and other hardwoods glow in hues of orange, red, and yellow. Those same maples, bare of their colorful leaves, are tapped several months later, early in the calendar year, to extract the sap that is boiled down into maple syrup, a major part of Highland's agricultural economy with sheep and cattle. For more than half a century, the county's role as the southernmost producer of maple syrup in North America has been highlighted and celebrated during Maple Festival. Over 2 weekends in mid-March, the festival attracts up to 30,000 visitors. They browse a large arts and crafts fair on the grounds of the county courthouse, explore the area's numerous sugar tree farms, and enjoy the delights of maple syrup. The all-natural confection is an earthy, sweet topping on pancakes and buckwheat cakes, a gooey glaze on donuts, and a creamy candy molded into the shape of a maple leaf. The festival is largely responsible for creating broad awareness of Highland County across the mid-Atlantic and well beyond. In early October, the Hands and Harvest Festival offers a more balanced diet of locally grown meats, fish, vegetables, and fruits. Handicrafts, art, country music, and folk dancing round out the schedule. While the Homestead has provided Bath County with a large hotel to accommodate its visitors, Highland County has relied on guest rooms, bed and breakfast houses, a small motel, and the Highland Inn, a grand 3-story wooden hotel built in 1904. The Highland Inn is on Main Street, Route 250, in the county seat of Monterey, Highland's only incorporated town. It is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It is also a Virginia Historic Landmark. The inn's exterior renovations, including the roof, were completed last year. A fundraising drive is now underway to secure the $3.4 million needed to restore the inn's interior to its former glory. Obsidian Fields, essay by Patricia Contaxis. In the summer of 1977, I took a Greyhound bus cross-country 3 days and 4 nights from New York City to Eugene, Oregon. I wanted to see the West, and if I'm being honest, to pursue a poet I knew who was living in Oregon. After the thin woods of southern New York State, the height and breadth of the Cascade Pines astonished. I kept my forehead pressed against the bus window, eyes riveted as we climbed up and over the pass into the Willamette Valley. In August, Elaine took me backpacking at Three Sisters Wilderness in the Deschutes and Willamette National Forests in Oregon's Cascade Range. North, Middle, and South Sister are 3 volcanic peaks, each over 10,000 feet high. There are 14 glaciers in the park, one of them between North and Middle Sister, the largest in Oregon. The forest cover is pine, fir, and hemlock, with alpine meadows above the tree line. We walked through a lava field where no trees grew, nothing green. A distant volcano had splashed this part of the mountain and turned everything to cinder, a vast acreage of pumice, gray and black and reddish golf balls made of moon stuff. We entered a landscape of jet black ice. As far as the eye could see in any direction lay glistening rubble, a treeless boulder field of ebony glass, the Obsidian Fields. How did this happen? I asked. Imagine everything we are seeing as a molten magma flowing from the volcano. Elaine gestured across the wide swath. A river of magma above ground, and as it hits the cold air and maybe water, it cools so rapidly the atoms stay smooth, no time to form the crystalline structure that makes rock rough. A black glass river stilled, mid-undulation over time, big geologic time. The obsidian weathered and broke into chunks. Some were as big as refrigerators. Elaine hefted a small one in her palm. She pointed to where the rock cleaved to expose curved surfaces, black and striated, a fractal version of a bend in the lava river. The natural formation of knife edges made obsidian ideal for arrowheads and cutting tools for Native Americans. Elaine replaced the obsidian from whence it came. This wilderness, long in making, could quickly give way to human hands. Leave no trace, she taught me. Where and how we set up camp, what we did while we were there, and how we broke camp in the morning, all were done with care. 3 Stops on the Silk Road, essay by Jeff Fernside. Kazakhstan has a long and interesting history, though there is little left to show for it. For millennia, the region was inhabited by nomadic peoples who had little need for permanent forms of civilization. Much of what was created was later destroyed, either by marauders, from the Mongols to the Soviets, or nature, primarily earthquakes. A few scattered historical sites survive, and a good number of these are concentrated in the South Kazakhstan Oblast, where I lived for 2.5 years, beginning in 2002. On a warm October weekend, some friends and I visited 3 of the most fascinating sites. Our first stop was the 14th century mausoleum of Aristan Bab, or Father Aristan. This Islamic holy man, who died in the 12th century, is revered as the teacher of Khoja Ahmed Yasawi, the famous Sufi poet-preacher to whom the arts-loving tyrant Tamerlane dedicated his architectural masterwork in nearby Turkestan. Aristan Bab's final resting place isn't as lavish. Groundwater rising through capillary action brings mineral salts to the surface in this area. We could see a white dusting of them all around us. This causes problems with the baked brick construction of the mausoleum, which requires frequent renovations to repair the water and salt damage. Saline soils are common in many parts of Kazakhstan. Still, I couldn't help wondering if any of the toxic dust from the dying Aral Sea to the west had blown here as it had so many other places. At one corner tower of the mausoleum, I saw an open door. Walking up a narrow, cramped staircase, I found myself on the roof. There, behind a facade, a group of workers restoring one of the 2 domes was resting and talking. When they saw me, they immediately jumped up. When I asked if I could take a picture with my old Canon camera, they proudly picked up their tools and struck a vigorous group pose. Otira's origins date back nearly 2,000 years. It was the birthplace of the famous Islamic scientist, mathematician, and astronomer Abu Nasr al-Farabi. It rose to prominence as one of the richest cities along the Silk Road. At the crossing of routes, it was truly at the center of trade and influence. The Mongols under Genghis Khan slaughtered nearly everyone inside. When we visited, all that was left of Otrar were tremendous town walls. A small portion of the city was slowly being reconstructed by archaeologists. Our last stop, as daylight faded, was Sauron. We bounced along a dusty two-track road through the salt desert, the sun a large red-orange circle on the horizon. The herd of grazing camels we passed could have been, with a slight squint and some imagination, a medieval caravan on its way to bed down for the night at the nearby oasis. A Soviet-era plaque in front of the town's main gate indicated in both Russian and Kazakh that Sauron had remained inhabited until the 16th century. The magnificent city walls, built of mud brick, were slowly melting under the action of rain and frost. Within the wall lay piles of smashed pottery and, as at Otira, millions of shards of bones. Book review, Ships in the Desert, Essays by Jeff Fernside. From 2002, Jeff Fernside was a Peace Corps teacher in Kazakhstan, a landlocked country in Central Asia. He taught English at the University of Shymkent in the south, near the border with Uzbekistan. He stayed for 2 more years as manager of a prestigious fellowship program in Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. He learned Russian. He traveled in the area, much of which is desert and steppe. Ships in the Desert is by no means a complete account of Fernside's experience. The essay that furnishes the title is about the drying up of the Aral Sea, one of the worst human-caused environmental catastrophes of the last century. The image is of rusted fishing boats stranded far from water. Religion is inescapable in Central Asia, along with history that stretches back to Alexander the Great in the 300s BC. Today, the region is majority Muslim, with intense competition among sects, fundamentalist, radical, and those that tolerate pre-Islamic customs. The sects that have links to ethnic groups and international politics, as Saudi Arabia and Iran exert influence. Fernside gives us a personal take on this seething cultural stew in his essay, The Missionary Position. The Peace Corps has always stayed away from interference in politics and religion in its host countries, but Christian missionaries from several countries are active. Catholic, Protestant, and evangelical, they try to evade government bans on proselytizing by posing as aid workers and teachers, even calling themselves Peace Corps staff. The essay Ships in the Desert tells about Fernside's visit to the Aral Sea with a small group in 2003. Starting in the 1930s, the Soviet regime diverted water from major rivers that fed the Aral Sea. They used the water to irrigate cotton farms on a massive scale. The goal was to supply the Russian textile industry instead of depending on foreign sources. Socialist central planning, with its unrealistic quotas and imaginary crop yields, was a marvel of waste and inefficiency. Half of the water taken from the rivers evaporated in unlined canals and seeped into sand. The farms produced cotton under a system of forced agricultural labor and without a way to determine its real cost. The same disaster is underway in the United States as farmers deplete the Ogallala aquifer and in Mexico, India, and China. Book review, Tracy Flick Can't Win, novel by Tom Perrotta. Review by Ed Meek. Tom Perrotta is one of the best satirists writing fiction today. His new book is a sequel to his very funny novel, Election. The main character of both novels is Tracy Flick. In Election, she is an overachiever running for president of her high school class in suburban New Jersey. She is the type of student everyone hated, always knew the answer, hand up first in class. Front row student and leader of half a dozen high school clubs. Tracy is played to perfection by Reese Witherspoon in the movie version of the novel. In the Me Too era, the movie feels a little out of date, with the main character involved in a consensual affair with her English teacher. Is there such a thing as a consensual affair between a student and a teacher? Aware of today's political correctness, Perrotta has recreated Tracy as a sympathetic woman. Her dream of becoming the first female president of the United States was dashed when she had to leave law school to take care of her sick mother. Now a single mom and the assistant principal at the high school she went to, she wants a promotion. Is that too much to ask? A rich member of the school board, Kyle Dorfman, made his fortune with an app called Barky. If you did a nice thing for Barky, gave him a biscuit or a bath or a bone, you earned a gratitude hearts. They floated up from the dog's head and deposited themselves in a treasure chest. You could use the hearts as currency. Kyle has decided to create a hall of fame in the high school that will be public relations for the school and for him. Meanwhile, the principal, Jack Weed, is retiring to take his wife, who is a cancer survivor, on the cross-country trip of her dreams. Jack was involved for years with one of the school secretaries who is known as Front Desk Diane, but he ended the affair. Now he is ready to retire and make his wife happy. Tracy seems to be a shoo-in for the principal job, but things get complicated. Maybe the high school needs a revitalized football program with Vito's former coach to lead in a new direction. Book review, Hoaxes and Other Stories by Brian DiNuzzo. The lead story in Brian DiNuzzo's collection is a hard-boiled Hollywood caper. A faded film star repeatedly dies, according to the news, at the hands of his publicity agent and then by online pranksters. The actor tries to forget about it all by surfing. At first glance, the other 11 stories are unlike this one, but a theme of deception and betrayal winds through the book. The story settings are grim: a dying suburban shopping mall, the Knoxville airport on Christmas Eve, a homeless shelter, and the stories have victims, not heroes. Their afflictions are of the body and mind. Lorne Olson at the mall is a disturbed young man on medication, tall and thin, literally starving, as he waits in line at the food court. Gabe Paducah, waiting anxiously for his flight at the airport, is deathly afraid of flying. Indira, who cleans at the homeless shelter, is as desperate as the inmates. At the end of a hard day, she steals a child from one of them. DiNuzzo has a taste for the grotesque, the morbid, and the outlandish. He also has a talent for voicing the characters who live in these awful places. The censor begins, "You wouldn't think that I'd be the kind of guy to keep people from seeing the videos they want to see. Put me in a lineup of 10 and no one would choose me as the porn censor for the most popular video sharing site on the net." Undeniable proof of the Bigfoot begins. Grandpa Charlie shot a Bigfoot the day I was born. The Bigfoot survived, but Mom did not. 11 years later, we watched the old man tell a group at the library with his collection of Bigfoot artifacts, evidence, and memorabilia. The Sisters at the End is a sweet story of two sisters, Kathy and Maura, who enter a convent on Long Island in 1960 and live happily ever after. Kathy is deaf, which leads to interesting plot developments. This may be a tale of Catholic piety, but after so much chicanery, DiNuzzo may be pulling our leg.